And I tell you to break clean, watch yourself at all times, shake hands now, may the best man win. Good luck to both of you.
Round one, there's the bell. Speed called by very excellent, the uncrowned heavyweight champion.
Welcome, fight fans, into another episode of That's Boxing Podcast.
That's boxing.
Coach, you're dragged in, dried out from the Vegas sun.
I'm back, baby. Better than ever.
Well, it's a low bar. You were there for the Masters tournament?
Yeah, we went undefeated, man. Took care of business down there. 3-0 with my squad. Some good fights, some bad fights, some fun fights, and overall a great time.
So what's the cutoff for Masters, the age cutoff?
35 is the youngest you can be.
The youngest you can be. Okay.
Yeah,
so
I don't know how old. There was a dude there who was like 71 years old.
boxing?
Yeah.
Was it legit? Did you see him?
It was something.
That's impressive. How many people out of total did you see leave on stretchers?
Two dudes got stretched.
Oh, I was being sarcastic. This guy's got a real number for me.
Yeah. I saw 2 stretchers get put to use, but both for knee injuries, which kind of makes sense for old guys.
Damn.
But nobody got hurt to the brain too bad. They're real careful here, and some of the stoppages came a little early.
16-ounce gloves.
16-ounce gloves, 16-ounce headgear, and a minute 30 long rounds. So it's all kind of built to protect the fighters from themselves more than anything.
Right.
Especially in that Vegas heat. But yeah, it was a nice trip, man. Vegas is the only reason to ever go there is to box, and that's what we did.
Yeah. I can think of a few other reasons to go to Vegas, but that's a fair point. Well, definitely.
No, 0 other reasons.
That's it. Shout out Juan, Bob, and Han, man.
Yeah,
just
boys,
getting in
take
the
care of
ring.
business.
I'm hats off to all of them. I think that's very commendable and impressive to do something, like that, especially at this stage.
You're talking like a guy who's thinking about it.
Dude, I think about it every year. That's why I have such acute respect for it. You know what I mean? Because I know the exact barrier of what it would take in order to, get that cardio up and get the road work in and really put in the weight work and just all. I know everything that I can see front row, everything that goes into it. So I have the respect for it.
Yeah, well, definitely. Those guys are warriors. So, in between fights, because we had fights on Saturday and fights on Sunday, well, we have fights on TV, and there's a big screen in my Airbnb, and I was right there in Vegas.
Very
and
nice.
We turned that DAZN on.
Hell yeah.
And, hey, it almost felt like I was at the fights because it was right down the street.
Well, let's talk about those fights. We got 2 cards. We got ESPN and DAZN. Which one should we go with first?
Well, let's start in Vegas where I was at, and then we'll go over to Albuquerque. So we'll start with Ortiz.
So, yeah, Ortiz gets the majority decision against Bohocek in what turns out to be an absolutely grinder of a fight. I feel like everybody's prediction was this is going to be a quick knockout or it's going to be just absolutely brutal war of attrition. Turns out to be the latter. Ortiz survives 2 knockdowns, controversially. Or was it 3 knockdowns?
2.
2 knockdowns. The first one, which was not ruled a knockdown, but then later gets changed on review, which I thought was really interesting, and wins, which very coincidentally was our bet. The longest shot bet we've ever put as a pick. We said Ortiz survives a knockdown and gets up to win the fight, and that's exactly what happened. That was plus 900.
Unbelievable, plus 900. Now, you didn't, when you messaged me about that, I said that's not outside the realm of reality because I knew this was going to be what they call a knockdown, drag 'em out type of fight. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it turned out to be true. I mean, incredible call.
I think there's a lot to dive into with how interesting that call was, right? Partially because certain things have the wrong odds. Like, of course, anyone can tell you that's such a specific outcome. Somebody's going to get knocked down and they're going to win, right? That's why anytime you pick something like that, it's going to have long odds. But plus 900 was too much. Like you said, you think about the fight, okay, Ortiz is a great boxer. I think he's strong, young, all these things. I see him winning. But do I see him winning unscathed? No, he's very untested, young. He's brought up in Golden Boy, who's maybe the only promotional agency that protects their fighters more than Top Rank, right?
Yeah, and moving up in weight finally to face a legitimate contender at 154 pounds.
Great point. Fought 2 rounds, not just 2 fights, 2 rounds in 2 years.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of stuff lined up and made sense that in the boxing meta to see that was something that actually was in the realm of possibilities and probably should have been plus 250 and not plus 900.
Well, I hope you put a little bit of bread on that because what an amazing pick, what an amazing call. And I was like, man, if this comes, man, you're truly the oracle, man.
Oh, it gets better than that. Wait till we get to the next fight. But that was it was an amazing fight. How did you see it playing out as you watched it live?
I mean, well, it was exciting. no doubt. You know, it was one of those edge of your seat fights. You don't want to walk away. It's going so fast. And, you know, I thought that Bochuk was winning the early rounds. In that first knockdown, well, it didn't do any lasting damage. It was legitimate. And I'm glad they overturned it.
Yeah.
Because it was clearly, he got hit, he went down, and he got right back up. And that's fine. But, you know, midway through Ortiz, he started kind of turning around. He switched his style, started showing him different looks. Kind of that traditional Mexican style was paying off for him, just kind of getting right in his chest and bullying him quite a bit. I mean, it was just rough. There was hardly any clinching, hardly any breaks, you know. The referee didn't have much work to do, and they were just banging on each other. And fucking Bochuk showed this incredible chin, incredible stamina and ability to take punches to the head and the body. Punches that have put, you know, lots of guys down. So you can't say, man, this guy's just standing up to this like the Terminator. And I think it was starting to wear down Ortiz, you know, a little bit, because then he started letting it slip away in the, you know, second half. And my call was that he was going to get a KO in the second half. I thought he would just accumulate and find something. And he was landing some big shots in there that I said, okay, here it is. I can finally say I was right. But that dude would just take him.
100%. I think he showed a great chin, but the body was so impressive. Like, because he has that high guard where he kind of leans everything forward, so his elbows are like together and more on his abs than on like his obliques, and so that just exposes the side of his body.
It was bright red by the midway point.
And Ortiz, man, I mean, we all know this dude can crack. Absolutely, right? So many first round knockouts, 100% KO rate. So this dude is just absolutely pummeling this dude's liver and internal organs and, you know, just rocking his kidneys. And he's like, he just looked fine. He's like basically walking through it all
Literally
for 12 rounds. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, there was one moment there where Bochuk missed a punch, fell off balance, and Ortiz made him pay for it with a big left hook because he was finally out of position and made him pay for it. And he was able to score cleanly because the dude was finally, you know, kind of put out of position because, you know, Ortiz showed a lot that night, but he didn't really show any angles. He didn't really show anything like he was going to set something up in the second position. It was always just like head-to-head action, toe-to-toe action, and no stepping over. There was a couple moments where he was trying to do a kind of a whirling rear hand punch that just missed on the ropes a few times. And I said, wow, if that punch lands, he's going to get him out of there. And then later in the fight, he did land it, and it didn't do a whole lot.
Right.
It's like, God damn, this guy can take a punch. So, I mean, that's really the story. And the second knockdown happened in the, you know, later half of the fight. But that was a slip. You know, you could see he tried to throw a punch and his right foot kicked out from underneath him at the same time.
And his glove touched, right? He stood up almost immediately, but he touched down with
and then
his
he
glove.
won the rest of that round with a furious display of aggression.
Yeah.
So you got to say, you know, he made a great comeback. You could even score that a 10-9 round.
Yeah, or a 9-8 round.
Yeah.
Right,
If I
yeah.
take it the other way.
Yeah, because I think that he might have won both the rounds that he was knocked down in which case they become 9-8s instead of 10-8s.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and then...
Is that right? Is that how that? I always forget. It's if you win a round in which you're knocked down, because I think as soon as you're knocked down, it becomes a 10-8. But then if you win the round, maybe it turns to a 10-9. You close the margin by a point, basically.
Right.
It
Yeah,
gets
you
you
get
a
your point
round.
back.
You get your point back, but you still lose. You're still under a point.
Do you get your
Right.
point back or you take a point from the other guy? I'm not sure what happens.
Right. I don't know which way it goes, but either way, it becomes a differential of 1 point rather than 2 points, which is a really big deal because if you don't put, you know, otherwise you're down effectively 2 rounds. So you need to win the next 2 rounds just to be tied at that point when you have a knockdown. So you're in quite a deficit. And I think that that's the only way he ends up winning this fight is by those rounds kind of being scored that way because there were so many close rounds. To be down 2 of them is extra significant in a fight that close.
Yeah, super close fight. And that's why people are calling it a potential fight of the year because that's what a fight of the year is supposed to be. Back and forth. Who's winning? I don't know. Wow, it's close. We could watch this over and over again. They should have a rematch. I don't think they're going to. But
Turkey said rematch. He said
runs-
before.
Did you see Turkey in street clothes?
Yeah, he was
said,
chilling,
who's this
man.
good-looking guy
I know,
over
yeah,
here?
yeah, it was this guy chilling. My favorite thing was they're interviewing him,
Awkward interview.
and
of
he's
the
like,
year.
he's got his back to the
Yeah.
camera, and they keep trying to like turn him, like, look at the camera. This is television. I love me some turkey, some
Yeah, he's
tryptophan. Yeah,
Yeah, well, you know, and then it was one of those fights where, you know, we're in the Airbnb, and we had joked about it when I put it on earlier that night because we did our amateur boxing. You know, we're done by like 4:00. We come back to the Airbnb, we're chilling out. I said, "Hey, this fight's just down the road at the Mandalay Bay. Let's go." And my wife was like, "Okay, I'll go with you." And I was like, "Well, I was kind of kidding. Like, I don't know if I want to do that." But I went online and looked. It was sold out.
really?
Yeah,
Good for
totally
them.
Sold out.
Nice.
So, and you could tell from the crowd too, it was totally sold out. But man, that would have been a great one to be at.
Oh yeah, incredible.
So, but it went to distance, which was not what I predicted, and it was a good fight. And then the cards were a little bit surprising. Was it one had it a draw, and the other two had it for Ortiz? Was that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one draw, and then the other I think had Ortiz winning by a round or two, very close. Do you think they got the call right?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. I liked Bochuk's reaction. He's like, if you know anything about boxing, you know what just happened. Like he pretty much said, "I got robbed," without saying I got robbed. He said, "The guy who was supposed to win,
right,
got the victory." But I don't know if you can say knocking a guy down a couple of times is enough when he's out punching you every other second of the fight.
Did he out punch him though on the punch stats? I think he landed less but threw more, which has kind of been our theme on this podcast, talking about what does effective aggression look like, and when do you deserve to be rewarded for throwing punches that don't land?
The CompuBox had Ortiz landing less jabs by only about 10, but landing more power punches with higher accuracy.
So he landed more and threw less?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the other way around. So Bochuk was the busier fighter, but less accurate.
But the way they list things on CompuBox is everything besides his jab is a power punch.
Right.
But Ortiz's jab is a power punch. When he was working that jab, sometimes doubling it up, it was snapping dude's head around.
True.
I mean, so you can't say that's not a powerful punch. And you know how it is with CompuBox. You never really know. But, I lean towards Ortiz. I like his style. And, I can't help but like him. And they were trying to say, oh, look at Ortiz's face. It's all busted up. Well, what's that got to do with anything? You could tell he was damaged coming into the fight. And all the pre-fight interviews, all the hype videos they showed while you're waiting for him to walk out, he had a huge cut across his nose. So as soon as the fight got rough, then that cut blew up. So take that cutaway off his nose. Yeah, sure, he's marked up. But he's not as damaged as he would have been. I
mean, it's not a fair thing anyways. Like, everybody's skin is different. People literally show damage at different levels and speeds and all sorts. You can't really hang anything on that.
Yeah.
I didn't score the fight, and I didn't rewatch it before this podcast. And as everybody knows, I always harp on, like, if you didn't really score it round by round, then you didn't score it. You don't get to just watch it in its entirety and say who you thought won. At the end, right before they read the scorecards, I definitely thought Bochuk had it. I thought it was a very close fight. I thought he was going to get a majority decision.
Because of the knockdowns?
The knockdowns I thought were enough to carry it over. And when I kept kind of looking for rounds that were definitively Ortiz, right? Because if I'm like, oh man, this guy's carried 5 rounds after this, he's survived the knockdown and now he's up. But that didn't happen. I was like, close, close, close. And so in the back of your head, you're just assuming, well, they're probably splitting these rounds. And if you're splitting rounds, that's not enough to come back from getting knocked down. So that's just how I saw it. But obviously, I was ecstatic for our parlay, for my bet, when they read it.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a robbery for sure.
Too close to be a robbery. But somebody had to win it, and it would have been okay either way.
If in that point, it's like, maybe make it a draw and just run it back.
Yeah.
Well,
before the fight, this is Turkey's thing. He's talking about what's next for the guy that's supposed to win, which is kind of annoying. He did that with Crawford, who did win, but he didn't win dominantly. Right.
Neither did Ortiz.
The same thing happened with this, where you're like, he's saying, what's happening with all these American fighters? They're supposed to be these superstars, and they're barely winning these fights.
Yeah.
While he's already selling the next fight. It's like, but it's the way it goes, man. That's boxing. And a hell of a fight, hell of a night. Hopefully they run it back. I don't know. Bochuk can make a couple adjustments, and it's definitely his fight next time.
I think so. One of the more interesting things I thought during the fight was Ortiz's style switching. I feel like he did 2 distinct styles, and I don't know if he knew why or when he was switching between them. So one was he had that basically stick and move boxer where he like had the real low, like almost shoulder roll jab where he's like flicking it out and trying to do a lot of movement on the outside, and then he would just immediately switch to go back head to head.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really tell which one was more effective. Like, he'd box from the outside and he'd look really good for 20, 30 seconds. And then Bochuk would land some picture-perfect right hand down the pipe. And I'm like, oh, shit, that's not working. So then he'd go head-to-head and he's landing all his body punches, but they're not doing anything. And Bochuk's finding these uppercuts and touching him up. And it's like, okay. And I was with you with your comment earlier of, I felt like he needed this third style, which was more of like the scoot and shoot, where he's head to head with them, but then he shifts his hips and finds some opening and gets his power to work. But he really just moved between those 2 gears, and Bochuk had an answer for both of those.
And that goes back to them being former sparring partners and gym stablemates. They know each other. They know each other in the ring. They know what to expect from the other guy, and it makes a really competitive matchup. You're not going to surprise him with anything. I think a guy like Ortiz has gotten by on his power. He's gotten by on his athleticism. He hasn't had to study those nuances to create openings because he just had to punch his way to victory.
Right.
Now, next, he'll have to go back and study a little bit more. I like he's a really nice boxer. He's got some of the most natural upper body movement. He's a little off balance sometimes. His footwork's a little funny, but his upper body movement's great. He's got a really nice slipping and rolling kind of style. I really liked what he was operating. He was doing a rolling and jabbing to the body with a straight punch. That was a pretty nice little move he was doing there. And some of them were straying kind of low. But he was throwing this mid-range jab to the body while he was rolling, like a bobbing and weaving and jabbing to the body.
Would he do it on the roll down, like with his head coming down and to the right?
He would roll under, and then instead of where a guy would typically throw like a Joe Frazier impression, like big rolling, lifting to the head punch, he would do that same roll and then stab the jab to the body.
I see. Okay, so on the way up, rolling out of the bottom
and then
of
stick
it.
to the body. But he never really got all up. He's kind of stayed and hunched over.
Right.
So it was a little old school style thing. I like it, But there was a sense of urgency in the corner, from his guys over there, Robert Garcia and everybody. And it's like, the kid definitely needs to do something different on the rematch. And, they're talking Crawford. I don't think he can handle that. He got hit so many times, so clean, that a guy like Crawford touching it like that, I don't think he's going to survive it. So
That's that. Yeah, that was going to be my next question is what's next for Ortiz? Obviously, the matchmaking was for Crawford, but you see him struggle with someone so much like that. It's like it doesn't beg the Crawford question next. And again, like him kind of switching through between these two styles where I thought he looked good in both. I agree. And I think his defense is a little underrated. But, Crawford has 25 different styles that he's going to reach between, and they're all, pretty seamless. And he tends to know which one of the Swiss Army knife tools to pull out for which situation. And that seems like the exact thing that would piece someone like Ortiz up.
And despite what Turkey wants, which he seems to talk about fights like they're his fight, this is what I want. But Ortiz in the ring said, we want the winner of Fundora Spence. Yeah. That's what we're looking at. So now there's all these different conversations. The fans want the rematch. He wants that fight, and Turkey wants Crawford.
Are Fundora and Spence, is that a set fight?
That's what they're saying.
But I don't think they actually have a date yet, right?
Nothing I've heard officially.
If I'm Crawford, I'm yelling from the rooftops, like we talked about last time, for Fundora. Because he's the mandatory now. And I think that gets him 3 belts if he beats Fundora at 154. And then it's just the lone last fight to make to be undisputed in 3. And maybe I'm the only one that cares about that, but that just seems like such a legacy-defining thing.
That's what he's going for, too. He's not going to fight anybody who doesn't have a title.
So that's the fastest way. And to me, I'm trying to fight the fewest fights to achieve that because that's the fastest route, most direct route. So you need to fight people before they lose. Like Fundora gets stripped, gets lost, someone else bumps up in the rankings. Now they're the mandatory. All of a sudden, you got to do 4 or 5 fights to collect these belts.
Here's the thing. Spence is going to collect them all, and then all the other 3.
Right.
Well, Crawford gets screwed around by politics.
And then he only has to do one more fight.
And the rematch to be undisputed in the second weight class against the same dude.
Right. Spence's funeral.
I'm curious to see who shows up if Spence fights again. I mean, it sounds like he's gonna, and we'll see what he can do against Fundora. But, I don't know, man. That guy's like permanently damaged from his beating he took and the accidents he's had outside of the sports. It's hard to see, why. I know pride, I know all these things, money, whatever, but it's like, damn, bro, you got ran over. This world just ran you over.
I mean, if Spence has gas left in the tank, I think he can beat Fundora. It's a competitive enough fight. A damaged Tim Tszyu couldn't beat Fundora, but still kind of look competitive. I don't know if that. I mean, obviously, I had Tszyu in that fight, winning, so maybe there's a different outcome there if he doesn't get cut. But those 3 can kind of all fight it out, and maybe those are all 50-50 fights. I'd probably put Spence at the bottom of those 3. Mm-hmm. But whoever shakes out in any combination, I have Crawford beating.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, let's talk about ESPN in Albuquerque. Angelo Leo lands a picture-perfect, maybe KO of the year candidate on Luis Alberto Lopez to win a featherweight title in front of his hometown Albuquerque crowd. Went nuts.
Now, did you manage to dual screen it, or how did you watch this?
So I recorded this one.
Okay.
And this is what I was going to say about the bet. So I recorded it. I threw a little bit of money on what we said Ortiz gets knocked down and then wins. And then I parlayed it with Leo.
Whoa, buddy.
I turned $5 into $500.
All right.
It was a pretty ridiculous night. It was honestly the strongest return of any That's Boxing sanctioned.
You should have put the house on that one.
Dude, it was so rough because I had 500 on it, and I was sitting there like just fucking do it, bro. Don't be a pussy. Just do it. Like, you'll win, like, I can't even remember. It was like $50,000. Some absurd. And then I was like, dude, you can't do this.
Just
What's wrong with you?
backspace.
Yeah, backspace. Take those zeros off. Like, just have a nice night.
Ugh.
Eat your brownies.
Bro, but it's bragging rights forever, man.
It was beautiful. When he landed that, I was going nuts because that was the end of my night. It completed the parlay, and it's just what I thought was going to happen. I mean, this begets a whole conversation about how far natural talent, ability, strength, whatever gets you versus just having conventional skills, right? And you got one dude who has all those attributes, and he looks powerful and explosive and kind of unbeatable in his attitude and presentation. But then you have this dude that just says, well, I'm a perfectly sound boxer, and I'm just going to piece you up. And that's absolutely what he did.
Yeah, what a hook, man. What a punch. So I saw it in the airport yesterday waiting for the flight. We had some time to kill, so I just watched on my phone.
But you knew the outcome. You saw the highlight.
But of course, I got the spoiler.
Yeah.
So it was like, you read the last page of the story and then you had to go back through it. But it was actually really exciting seeing, okay, how is this going to go down? Because this guy's always looked very knockoutable to me. A hell of a frustrating guy to fight because, he went over across the pond and beat the crap out of all those Englishmen who've never seen anybody move like that.
Right.
And, it's like, you're watching, like, how do you train for somebody like this? He's hitting you from all these weird angles. He's not defending himself at all, but his awkwardness is his attribute that's getting him through. But you could always have this feeling like this isn't going to last forever. Somebody's going to make you pay. And that's exactly what happened. And Leo made him pay bad. And you could tell he was looking to counterpunch all night. And he was scoring some big shots throughout the night. Some bigger, maybe punches that were even bigger, but this was more about timing. And you watch that clip, you can see Lopez sticks out kind of a lazy jab. And just this huge left hook comes out, and he's just completely not protected himself, and he's limp as a noodle. He wasn't stiffed up. He wasn't ready to catch nothing. And then, unfortunately, he took that shot on the chin, and then he took a big one on the back of the head when he went down. And he's got some bleeding in his brain now, and he didn't know where he was at. They put him on the stool, and he's like, "Where the fuck am I?"
Yeah, I was gonna say if you heard I needed the translation, but I went and watched it, and he gets on the stool and he goes, "Where are we?"
Yeah,
and it's like, oh, that's not what you want to hear.
Yeah, that's bad. It's rough knockout, but great night for the local kid. And the build up to it, what came to it, was actually a really interesting boxing match. There was a lot of back and forth. There's a lot of big punches here, a lot of big punches there, but mostly I saw the counterpuncher. It was just waiting for the right timing. And if that would have gone the distance, how do you think it would have played out? How did the scorecards show at the time? I'd like to see that. But I could have seen it going to Lopez just because he was having his moments for longer periods of time. Occasional counterpunches usually aren't enough to win you a round. And, that guy can kind of ride and turn his head with punches a little bit and make it look like I tell my fighters, make it look like they got lucky when they hit you and it didn't hurt at all.
Right.
You're just kind of whipping your head around and kind of dancing with it and not getting stumbly. So it was hard to tell how damaging those punches really were until that last one, which was undeniable. But what a KO, man. Definitely going to be a KO of the year. So we had a potential KO of the year on the same night as the fight of the year.
It was a great night.
Great night for boxing, man.
They always got to put them around at the same time.
Yeah, fuck, dude. Now, what's next for this kid, Leo? I mean, he's had a title shot before. He's been around the block, but they're going to come hunting for that title now,
Yeah. I saw some great graphic about all the champions at featherweight and how it's I believe the biggest height differential of current champions at the same weight class. Because it's, let me look it up. Who holds the belts? Because you got what? Is it Ball is the shortest?
Nick Ball, very, very short.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I got a whole set of notes from this. I was just watching in the airport and 2 rounds at a time I would take notes. And I was just like, Lopez showing he can get away with anything he wants. He can do everything wrong and still get away with it. But Leo looks sharp, and he's scoring clean.
Rafael Espinoza, that's the dude. His name I was just trying to think of. Who's what? Is he like 5'10"?
Oh, how about the ref in that fight though? Huh?
He's 6'1". He's 6'1", and Nick Ball. How tall is Nick Ball? 5'1"?
If he's lucky.
Listed at 5'2".
Okay,
so
generous.
That's an 11-inch. height difference between current champions. So we got to make that fight. That's what I want to see. Putting it all on Nick Ball for the short guys. Short kings rule.
That's a whole foot, dude.
Yeah. Almost 11 inches.
Let's make it happen.
That's crazy. That'd be a crazy fight to see, especially with Nick Ball's style, where he fights small too, kind of like Pitbull.
Stay small.
Yeah. He just like a little
That's what I
wrecking
tell
ball.
him. Tell him in the gyms. If you're small, stay small, man. Don't try to be tall.
Why is his name not the Wrecking Ball? What's his nickname? I don't know if he has one.
Oh, dude, those British guys aren't the best with monikers.
Yeah, that's true. Speaking of monikers, I forgot to mention last time, I love how Madrimov's name is the Dream.
Yeah.
He's just like, fuck you, Devin Haney.
Yeah, I mean, it's in his
I'm
name.
the Dream.
It's in his name, right? Madream.
Oh, is that where he got? I didn't even put that together.
That's my guess.
Madrimov. Interesting. Oh, his name is the Wrecking Ball. Thank God. There's some justice in the world. I
You
was
probably
like,
already knew that.
I probably did. It's subconscious. It's
Yeah,
great
but-
about forgetting things because then you get to rediscover them all the time. How about Shakur Stevenson going back and forth with Venado? I thought that. Did you see that?
No, I totally missed that.
So before the fight, he I don't know if he screenshotted his bet, but he said, "I'm putting money on Leo. Like skills pay the bills or whatever." He said something like that. You don't know shit about boxing, whatever one of his catchphrases are. And Venado saw that and tweeted him back like, fuck off or whatever. And after the fight, Shakur's like, well, I guess that. No, this is what Venado was like. Are you running to place your bet just like you run in the ring?
Nice.
And then, of course, after the knockout, it's kind of easy to clap back. And he was like, yeah, maybe you should work on your defense. You could watch some of my fights.
Oh man, that's rough, especially after that bet on knockout. But I said the whole boxing world was waiting for that guy to get to what was coming to him, And Venado means a deer, right?
Yeah.
Like he jumps around like a deer. Like it's he's powerful and explosive, but man, fundamentals is where it's at. I mean, every local kid is going to be practicing that same hook,
Yeah.
and that hook is going to work way more often than that weird leaping uppercut.
The leaping uppercut, and also it's the open stance. It's abandoning your boxing stance to cut the ring off, which on one hand, I kind of love it, but it's just done so defensively, irresponsibly, right? Where they just kind of it's like opening up your hips and just walking with your hands down. And I'm like, dude, you got to make this a roll, like a step through roll with some defensive responsibility,
Yeah, he's gonna have to figure something out. But I don't know. When you got a guy like that in the gym, who's probably had a hard time even learning how to box properly because he was so explosive and so powerful. I got a guy in the gym right now. This kid, he can't help but hit hard. He's super fast and explosive. It's hard to even teach him how to box because you put him in the ring to get some jab rounds, and he's just banging everybody with this lightning fast jab. And I'm like, oh fuck. Now, so I got to have him just working on his defense for a while until I get somebody in there that can jab with him, 220 pounds,
Right.
He's like a wicked, fast, explosive kid. And I'm like, fuck. And so when you get these naturally athletic individuals in the sport of boxing, sometimes their natural gifts allow them to skip the line on some of the things you need to learn because you say, kid, you need to learn the jab, basic footwork, and anything. And they said, okay. Sure, coach. And then they get in the ring and they knock everybody out. And they're like, why?
Right.
Look at me go. I'm the deer.
This is like know the rules to break the rules, right? They say in art, oh, you want to paint, learn how to paint, whatever, sunsets, watch Bob Ross. Then once you do that, then you can do this crazy stuff. But I'm sure it's hard because you got a way that you want to do it. You got a way that you're finding success with, and you just want to lean into that. But that's only going to take you so far. You're going to hit a ceiling at some point. And I feel like that's what we watched was that's the ceiling right there, dude. You were standing there, you got clipped, end of it.
Yeah. Yeah, his corner had a real sense of urgency too. They were like, you're going to lose these close rounds. It's his hometown. You got to go out there and make it happen. And he was landing that uppercut brutally up, but the kid was taking him.
Yeah.
He finally got in there with somebody who could take it and give it back to him. And he couldn't handle it, man. And bam, dude, watching his head bounce off the ape. Oh, that's terrible. That's the worst part. Getting hit, one thing, but we got to see more like a diving save from the referee.
Oh yeah, you think so?
We need an inflatable ring.
Yeah,
that puffs up. And
like an airbag. On the, I mean, they could wear padding on the back of their head. Where you're not supposed to get hit there anyways.
It's like after Dale Earnhardt died, they made everybody wear a different neck brace.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It changed the safety rating thing for this whole sport. And one of my master's boxer, Juan, he has a motorcycle jacket or vest that inflates.
I've seen those.
If you crash. No, I'm never saying that's ever going to happen in boxing. We're just kind of bullshitting here, but it does suck to see a guy's head bounce off the fucking ring, because that's the back of the head is where we try to protect from getting hit so much.
I mean, I think it's your visual cortex is back there. It's some of the most sensitive stuff is towards the surface, the last place you want to get hit.
No, that's why they call it a rabbit punch. You know why they call it a rabbit punch, right?
punch him. Well, it's because that's how you kill a rabbit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's nothing back there to protect.
Right.
So
Yeah, I mean, brutal to watch, and really interesting to see a shot like that. When you watch a fight in its entirety, you're like, okay, this dude's getting cracked with shots that look every bit as hard as that one constantly. I mean, like probably 100 plus until that point. And he shrugs them all off. But then for some reason, that one, I mean, you touched on it, timing, he's not tensed up. It's the shot you don't see coming, all those things. But it's still a different thing to really watch it.
yeah.
Right? Like, why that one? But man, it's like destructive power 0, destructive power 100%.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
And he was looking for that hook, multiple times, but usually after the right hand, like catch the right hand and then come with the hook.
Right.
But he threw that one after the jab, and the timing was a little bit different.
Well, he threw it off nothing, right? It was, yeah, I mean, it was
off of Venato's jab.
Venato
though.
throws this, yeah, like you said it perfectly, lazy jab, kind of a bow and arrow jab, because you look at it in slow-mo and his right hand is just
I don't think he's
down.
ever thrown a pure jab.
Yeah.
Usually his right hand just flops around wherever he wants it.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
And it was-
definitely wide open there. And I don't think the kid was exactly waiting for that exact moment. He'd just been trying to counter all night, and finally he got the one.
Yeah. And then I love the
Beautiful
ref
shot.
just counting. I was like, bro, what are you counting for?
The other commissioner got in with the stool before he was done counting.
like, were you counting to a
That
million?
ref was like, he was getting annoyed with him. He's like, all right, like annoyed dad. Come
Yeah.
on, guys, that's enough.
that's
Come
enough,
on,
that's enough."
let's go. Take it easy, And then he broke him one last time, and then that's when the shit went down.
That was it.
It's crazy different. I mean, so that's definitely like not going to get a rematch. I don't think. I think we're going to see we're going to see the deer take some time off, and take a long time to heal from that one.
Yeah, I think well-deserved, and I hope he's all right. If you missed either of these fights, definitely run them back in their entirety, not just the highlights. Great fights. Moving on this weekend, we've got an ESPN card doubleheader, which I'm excited about. Makhmudov, my favorite of all boxers, comes back to face Guido Viano in the heavyweight division, and then we've got Christian and Billy, maybe his coming out party to the world, facing kind of the gatekeeper, Sergey Derevyanchenko. What do you think about these fights? I'm excited. I think this is a sneaky good little doubleheader card.
Yeah, dude, I'm kind of bummed. I'll be busy working a local pro fight down in Springfield, Oregon.
Dude, I wish I was going to be there. I'm going to be
down
on
there
a
with
plane.
my guy Aaron, the Daywalker. So we'll be down there taking care of business for his second fight. So I'm going to miss all this action live. I'll watch it back in the hotel room later that night when I get done with work. Yeah, but man, Derevyanchenko's been around the block, dude. He's been in there with the best. He's lost to the best, but man, I think he might have beat Triple G if you go back and look at that one again. Mm-hmm. I thought, man, they're giving the old man the gift here tonight because he was just getting hit with like 14 punch combinations. Because once you get that dude running, once you get that Derevyanchenko motor running, it doesn't turn off.
How about Jaime Munguia? I don't know if that was a Derevyanchenko win, but it could have easily been a draw.
That was fight of the year at the time.
Yeah.
And that's what a fight of the year is supposed to be. Hard to pick him. Who knows? But that shows this guy's got the ability to take the world-class guys into the deep water and make them fight for their lives. So this Billy, it's his time for him to prove who he is. I mean, he's been beating up on these guys up in Canada for a while, but this guy, Derevyanchenko is no Canadian bum. He's no Canadian goose, if you know what I'm saying. Let him come out and see who he is, because I think he might be something special. And if he can this is a guy who uses his feet. This is a guy who finds another angle. Mm-hmm. This is a guy who shifts and slides and throws uppercuts from who knows where. And if they land, you're going down.
Yeah.
So I think this has got a potential to be another fight of the year, an all-action brawl. And if Derevyanchenko doesn't do everything right, he might have a short night.
Do you think the same goes for Billy?
No, I don't think so. Have you seen who has Sergey knocked out?
It's a good question.
I don't think he's a KO guy. I think because maybe that's why Triple G let him hit him with a 14-punch combination and shrugged it off because he doesn't have the power.
Yeah, you got to go back to 2017 to get a stoppage from Derevyanchenko. So, he's 15 victories, 10 knockouts, which is interesting given his style because, he puts punches together in sequence very well, and he looks like he's got quite a bit of power. He got the respect of Munguia and, went toe-to-toe with him. He's obviously tough, never been stopped personally, even with 5 losses. But you're right, doesn't have the one-punch power. I do view this fight as similar in a way to the Ortiz-Bohocek fight we just saw, where it's this guy who we kind of think is the wrecking ball, is the Terminator, but we can't really tell because he's never been pressure tested, and this is the first pressure test.
And what better than an Eastern European to do it?
Yeah.
These guys can handle the pressure.
Exactly right, and great parallel too in both of these cases where you got somebody tough and the reason I really couldn't bet Ortiz like straight up on the money line, which was like heavily in favor of him, right? Is like, dude, feels like a 50-50 fight. I don't really know what's going to happen here. Same with this one. Every time I see him Billy fight, I'm like, I think I'm going to have a nightmare tonight. I mean, he just looks ferocious, like a little hopping Canelo, But is he really that? Like you run through his record and it's like, I don't know, this probably feels like a 50-50 fight.
Yeah. Well, if Triple G couldn't put Derevchenko down, and Billy does, then people are going to say that this guy is the truth. He is the nightmare. What is his nickname? Since we're on the monikers list here, he's got to have a good one.
Does I don't think Boxer X even. Okay, Alias, is that their nickname?
Yeah. Boxrec is on the way out.
The Lion. No, that's Makhmudov.
Leon.
Derevchenko is the technician.
Yeah, okay, I'll take that.
And Billy's is in French. Solid. Solide.
Bro, he's really fucking solid looking dude, for sure.
Let's listen to this French.
Solide.
Solide.
Well, and Billy's not winning any points for intimidation, I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, bro. He's like, I'll work on your car or your computer or something. I'm a technician.
Yeah. Oh, I was saying because he's French, but or French Canadian, but
right.
That's true. Every time they interview him after the thing and he starts speaking French immediately, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I have like a brain aneurysm.
Yeah,
stop it.
Yeah, it's because we're West Coast, and our Canadians aren't French when we drive north from here.
No,
that's some weird time warp over there. I don't even know what's going on with
that. It's a bastardization of democracy.
Well, that's dude. Okay, if, we're making picks right now for this fight. I think that's a 50-50 fight. No, I don't think it's a 50-50 fight. We got Derevchenko's got way more experience. I say it's 70-30
towards Derevchenko.
Yeah.
Woo, you're speaking my language right now. So Derevchenko's plus 330.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. So people really thinking Billy's just about to run through this dude.
Well, I mean, because you look at his highlight reel and he's running through dudes. But he went his last fight. It didn't go the distance, but he made it pretty far with a guy who was nobody.
Yeah.
Remember, he was a tough looking guy and he made it pretty far.
Against him, Billy.
Yeah.
I thought his last fight he
was
KO'd
maybe 2 fights ago.
Because Mark Heffron and KO'd him in the first round.
Okay, before that, though, the guy with the tattoos and shit. He looked like
6th round. So here you run through. He's got a first round knockout. Then he's got a 6th round. Looks like the guy retired.
6th round. That's the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah, and then he's got a 4th round knockout. 10 rounds with Carlos Gongora to get the unanimous decision. He's got a bunch of decisions. I like Derevchenko in this fight. I think, if anything, at least it's the wrong line, so you might as well put my money on him, right? Like, maybe Billy should be up, whatever, 1 or 2%, like he's going to win because he's the younger, fresher fighter. But,
in our game, we try not to, when we match make, and this is just in general, this isn't extremely specific, you keep a balance of 3 things: age, experience, and weight.
Mm-hmm.
So you can never give up more than 2. So if you're going to give up age, meaning you're going to be the older guy,
right?
You got to be bigger and more experienced. If you're going to give up your weight and be smaller, you got to be younger and more experienced. If you're going to give up experience, which is the most valuable thing in the sport, you got to also if you're giving up experience, you got to be bigger and younger. Okay, well, so in this game, Derevchenko, he's given up age
and he's given up weight to a certain extent.
We don't know who they're going to be on fight night, but I can imagine and Billy with the youth and he's probably hydrating a little bit more.
And Billy's also a career-long, mid 160. Started his career at 165. He's fought as high as 170, whereas Derevchenko, started his career at also 165, but he's fought as low as 160.
Yeah,
and as recently as 2 years ago. So
yeah. So he's a smaller guy. And so the only thing he's got going for him here is experience.
Yeah.
And then he's going to really have to lean into that experience to make it through this fight because that youthful power is going to catch him.
Yeah.
So, but he's a technician, a self-proclaimed technician, so he should be able to get the job done.
I think so.
There's a chance he gets hit, but that's what we call it, a puncher's chance. And this isn't Billy's chance to prove he's not just a puncher. Okay, because I'll admit he's got great footwork when the guy's laid up against the ropes, hanging on for dear life. But
yeah.
How's your footwork look against another guy who's got footwork, who's got an ability to use the ring against you? So this will definitely be an all-action fight, and Billy's going to have to show something. And, I think Derevchenko is known as a gatekeeper, and let's see if he keeps that gate closed.
Yeah. Yeah, and Billy by decision would be another interesting bet, I think. Just because if Jaime Munguia couldn't stop Derevchenko with 34 KOs and 43 fights, maybe he's indestructible. So maybe the only path to victory is points.
The long way.
Yep.
The long way. Okay, well, that's exciting.
That's exciting. What do you think about this heavyweight clash? Guido Villeno comes back from split decision loss for Efe Njagba, famously lost this podcast some money, versus the absolutely indestructible, except for his one KO, Makhmudov.
That's your guy, right?
That's my guy, man. I just think when he lost to Caballel, it didn't, like, I couldn't process the information because I thought this man was absolutely indestructible. He looks like a freaking tank. His neck is like as wide as my torso. Yeah.
I am box.
And he just cracks. Just 19 victories, 18 knockouts. I kind of thought he was like the Terminator, heavyweight that was going to come from out of nowhere and just like stop Usyk or whatever, some insane thing like that. But then he got stopped, but he came back and kind of redeemed himself with another KO, got right back on track, second round knockout. I kind of see the same for him, just continuing the knockout streak. Guido's lost 2 fights, one by stoppage. That was in 2023.
Yeah, he's slick enough to stick around. I don't think this one will end early, but it'll probably end midway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call. And that'll be a hell of an entertaining fight. I know, that anytime that you have a favorite fighter, it becomes my favorite fighter too. Okay. So I'll watch with your interest in mind too. I don't go too crazy for heavyweights. I don't know why. They just never really got me excited.
Because they don't move.
There's just too many of them just relying on power. Mm-hmm. And as a technical boxing, aficionado, no disrespect to the big guys. Every now and then you see one who can really box. But, I can't keep up with all these heavyweights. So I'll let you do that for me.
I like the heavyweights. That's how I see myself. So
yeah, you always, like follows like.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't want to sleep on Guido. I think, obviously I favored him in that Efe Njagba fight. I think he's got something. We were just running through kind of the intangibles, right? Is he giving up? What's he giving up? He's orthodox.
He's orthodox, but I thought he was struggling in that fight with Njagba for some reason.
So Makhmudov's fighting right around 260, and Guido's fighting right around 240.
That's not too much.
Guido's 6'6", Makhmudov's 6'5.5", so they're pretty size comparable. Guido's younger; he's 30, and the Lion is 35.
Well, that's one thing about the heavyweight division. Age doesn't seem to matter as much because these guys they burn at a different rate.
Right.
They're usually a slower rate. They start later. They fight less. Their fights don't last as long. They don't have as much accumulation as a guy who's 35 fighting in the junior middleweight division, who's going to take 1,000 more punches than the guy in the heavyweight over the same amount of time. Now, here's the thing too. When you think about taking damage, would you want to take one big shot that makes you wonder where you're at and you're done for the night, or you want to take 100 little shots, medium shots that you don't really notice that they're making things happen, but they do eventually make things happen?
It's an interesting question. We need to get a neurologist on here sometime to break this down. Also get somebody to explain why headgear is so stupid and no one should ever wear it.
There's only one reason to wear headgear.
Cuts.
To prevent cuts.
Yeah.
Or, according to the Olympics, if you're a woman.
Do they only make the women wear headgear?
Did you see the Olympics?
No, I didn't watch any
Only
of the
women were wearing headgear.
That's so weird.
And it looked like slap boxing. You know what? And there's a reason why America hasn't won gold medal since 20 years ago when Andre Ward did it, because we don't have an even American teaching our team. We've got an Irishman who's trying to turn us all into this European style slap boxing, low lead hand, flicker flacker bullshit. American style boxing, it ain't like that. American style boxing is slip and rip, duck, bob and weave and roll and power punch. Perfect timing, extremely athletic, a sick, wicked jab. But they're trying to develop this little pitter-patter style because, you know what? In amateur boxing, did you know that knocking a person down on their ass scores the same amount of points as just poking them in the nose with a jab?
What do you mean?
You get no more points for a knockdown than you do for a jab. It all adds up to the same amount of points.
Do you get points for a jab? I thought they score round by round.
You're supposed to. I mean, nobody's adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
Right,
7, 8.
right.
But the jab is a scoring blow.
Okay.
If you throw
So
a right
there's
hand,
no
in it-
like 10-8 rounds or
no,
anything like
it's
that.
standing 8 counts don't result in a 10-8 round.
It's just whether you won the round or not.
Depending on who bribed your country the most.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Wow.
It's a shit show, and it's developed this really whack style. And I get it. These American kids, the kids here in our country with talent, aren't interested in getting coached that way. The goofball shit they try to tell me to coach people because I'm a registered USA Boxing coach because I have to be to play the game. The shit they try to tell me to teach people is garbage, man. It's total garbage, and it's not fundamental at all.
Right.
It's completely wrong. They're telling me to do things that every coach I've ever been taught by, and every classic fighter I've ever studied, and every classic fighting style I've ever studied, every vintage trainer that we all look up to, from Eddie Futch to to modern day guys like Bomac. Nobody teaches the crap that they try to teach these kids and say that's what you're going to have to do to be an Olympian. And then even in their attempt to do this garbage, they still fail.
Right.
They got to throw the whole thing out, man.
I think that's why, there's not a perfect one-to-one correlation between Olympic success and professional success and vice versa, right? It's like at a certain point, you're talking about two different sports, two different things. But don't fear, our Olympic gold streak is coming back in 4 years because I think you saw Jake Paul is going to fight in the Olympics.
Oh, my man, Jake, please. This is what your whole life has come to.
Yeah, it's here to save boxing.
No, actually, there is one fight that can settle it once and for all.
Jake Paul versus Turkey.
No Jake. This wasn't an Olympic beef, but it was an amateur beef. Andy Cruz, Keyshawn Davis.
Ooh.
4 times Andy Cruz pointed him out. Pointed him. Peck,
in the amateurs.
In the amateurs, 4 times. But in the pros, if Keyshawn can show that the power punching American style gets the job done, then we can say, okay, Coach Josh was right.
Right.
The Americans knew all along how to be the better fighters. They just judging the sport wrong on the Olympic stage.
I mean, honestly, if we ran through, don't you think we could find like 10 Cuban boxers that had unbelievable amateur records that didn't translate to the pros?
Oh, no doubt. There's some that didn't even go pro. You ever heard of Teofimo Lopez? No, that's Teofimo Lopez.
Yeah, I was like,
Teofilo. It was a Filo. What was his last name? Either way, the dude never went pro. He was amateur for like 40 years. This is talking about in the 70s.
That's crazy.
Let me check
He had
it
like
out.
a professional amateur career.
Okay, that's boxing fact check. Here his coach is getting all fired up and getting my names mixed up.
Teofilo Stevenson, Cuban boxer.
Yes, he was supposed to fight Muhammad Ali. Yeah.
Was he a heavyweight?
Yeah.
Yeah, 220. 1952.
How many gold medals did he win?
I don't know. Let's see.
He was
He's a Cuban amateur boxer who
3 times.
competed from 1966 to 1986. He won the Val Baker Trophy in 1972, honored with the Olympic Order in 1987. How many medals did he win?
This says 3 times in the same division.
Olympic Games, 3 gold medals.
Yeah.
World champion, 3 first place. Central American champion, 6 times first place. Wow.
But he never fought a world title.
Why did he never turn pro?
Because he would have got smoked.
You think so?
No, I'm talking shit.
I wonder.
I'm talking shit. Because they wouldn't let him, bro. We're talking about the communist.
That's what I think. I think maybe part of it is just being trapped in Soviet Cuba in the 70s.
Yeah, that's why guys defect. There's modern day boxers. The one is about to fight Arislandi Lara. He defected.
Yeah.
He's about to fight Danny Jacobs at a catchweight, 157 pounds. Danny Jacobs coming off a 2-year layoff.
Wow, this is crazy. He got this many gold medals, and in 84...
not Jacobs, sorry. Danny Garcia.
The Cuban government, purely for political reasons, boycotted the 1984 Los Angeles Games and refused to attend the 1988 Seoul Olympics because North Korea was not allowed to co-sponsor the event. So he missed out on 2 Olympic Games.
He probably could have won.
Yeah,
by then he was getting a little old.
He's a little old then, but he still was winning then. That's crazy. I was like Muhammad Ali being locked up in his prime. He turned down several lucrative offers to go pro, which came from various internationally well-known boxing kingpins like Don King and Bob Arum.
Yeah, but that's a situation where like, hey, kid, we'll give you $10 million to come fight Muhammad Ali, but the rest of your life is over. You can never go home. You'll never see your mom again. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. The U.S. Treasury Department did not allow the series, saying it violated terms of the U.S. embargo against Cuba.
damn, no cigars and no boxers.
That's crazy. I can get you some cigars if that's. I got to hook up.
What do you think about Danny Garcia coming back to face Aristotle de Lara?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
2-year layoff. I think that guy could throw his left hook for the rest of his life and knock people out if you can get him to hold still long enough.
Yeah.
So he's in it for the fight, but I see Lara having the footwork, and he's showed some great, great ability.
He looked good in his last
his
fight.
last couple fights, he's looking great. So that should be a fun one. That's coming on the undercard of Berlanga.
Yeah.
They're kind of stacking up that undercard
With Caleb Plant.
of the Canelo.
Yeah, it's like the Canelo island of misfit broken Canelo toys fighting.
Yeah.
Fighting beneath him.
Did you see the press conference with all the gyrating and the filleting and the?
Oh, I mean, they're ridiculous. Also, Caleb Plant fighting Colby Covington. That's what it looks like he's fighting.
Actually Trevor McCumbee.
Yeah,
I follow that guy on Instagram randomly just because that's the way it is, and he's got a pretty sweet mustache and he seems pretty legit, but I don't think he's world class. And your boy Caleb Plant, he's pretty fucking nice, dude. He's got the sweet hands. They say.
I love Caleb Plant. Look at these guys' nicknames. This Trevor McCumbee doesn't. I thought it was going to be like
Dumby McCumbee.
Yeah, Dumby McCumbee, Gummo McCumbee. Nothing. How about Caleb Sweet Hands Plant? That's fire. Yeah, this guy doesn't even have a nickname. If you don't have a nickname, you do not deserve to step in the ring with my boy Caleb. Period.
Yeah. And then what's Berlanga? What's he got a name?
Edward Berlanga.
The Banga? Edward
the
Banga.
Biter.
The Biter.
The Biter. Is he gonna bite Canelo?
The tooth. He leaves a real nice impression on you, if you know what I mean.
Ooh, that's good. That's good. You could be his promoter.
Wow, man. He's talking some mad shit, though. He's trying to get Canelo fired up. And he does look pretty big, but he hasn't started his weight cut yet. So we'll see how big he looks when he cuts weight, That's one thing that Canelo does well that he learned from the guys that, he fought when he was younger.
Here's everything you need to know about Canelo. You know what his alias is on BoxRec? Canelo.
Yeah. Because he is the cinnamon man.
Berlango is the chosen one.
Oh, right. I made that joke a couple weeks ago. Chosen to lose.
Yeah. I've seen so many like Instagram reels of people being like, yo, y'all don't know Berlanga. These are like boxing analysts, right? And they're like, look at this dude crack, like 17 first round knockouts. Like, let's run through their records. And I'm like, dude, you got to stop.
Yeah.
You got to stop. Boxing is like more than this. You're talking about Canelo. Like, Canelo has picked this dude very clearly because this is barely a warm-up fight for him. I mean, of course, anything can happen on fight night. Berlanga definitely can punch. And if he lands a good enough one in the right way and the blah, 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 of course, all the fine print, Canelo can be beaten. But no, stop it.
No. I think we're going to see the same Canelo we saw in the John Ryder fight. Like, high guard, let you punch me, let you punch you, let me punch me, and then whoosh, one big counter punch. He's not going to give the kid a chance to hit him. Get the fuck out of here.
No, he's going to, and I mean, Berlanga's going to be swinging and hitting the air, I think, with Canelo's head movement. But I think you're right. He won't care either. He'll be standing there letting it happen. He'll be counter punching. I think he'll be loading up because he's a little too in love with his power and not letting stuff come to him. And if that means he ultimately just kind of gets a unanimous decision, I could see that.
Berlanga saying, you don't know me. I don't hit like Triple G. I was like, yeah, probably don't.
You don't hit like Triple G. That's part of the problem, my boy. I mean, just go watch Berlanga Jason Quigley. It's like,
dude,
you're not. No, stop it.
He's not the guy, bro.
Stop it.
He's not chosen to win this fight. But they are stacking the undercard for boxing fans, and that's pretty cool, man. They're bringing back Rolly Romero.
Yeah,
let's go.
Yeah.
They know how to entertain fans.
Mm-hmm.
So
but he's mostly good in the pre-fight. Rolly, well, here's what needs to happen. Rolly needs to talk for Shakur.
Oh, like
and then Shakur boxes.
Yeah. Like a little tag team.
Yeah, exactly. I could see that.
Yeah, you like your one friend who talked a bunch of shit, but you had to handle the business.
And then Shakur can back it up.
Yeah.
What's Rolly Romero's nickname? The Quacker? His alias is Rolly. God, these people suck.
I guess Rolando, Rolly Romero. Yeah.
Shakur is it really going to say Twitterson when I look it up?
He doesn't even have one, does he?
Nope. He does not.
I mean, he's got a pretty cool name already.
Wow, his birth name, Ash Shakur Nafi Shahid Stevenson. It's a lot of hyphens in there.
Oh, they got to read that whole thing out next
Yeah,
time he fights.
Fire. All right, we need to work on some nicknames. We need to work on some trash talk. We got a lot to work on to tune up. We're gonna miss next week. I'm gonna be abroad. I'll be in Scotland.
Damn, Scotland.
I know. I'm gonna be watching these fights at like 4 a.m.
Damn, son.
Brutal.
All right, well, I'm just going like 2 hours away to this local
Yeah,
boxing matches.
Otherwise, I'd be there watching this dude get his second win.
Well, I just got to say, man, you guys make sure that you watch these boxing matches, okay? Don't just take our word for it. You go watch them, and you tell us what you think. Get online. That's Boxing Podcast on Instagram. You know, we got. I think I deleted the TikTok. We still need that social media manager. I ain't got time for TikTok.
You deleted or the Chinese government made you delete?
I just deleted the whole app, dude. I ain't got time for that.
Oh,
nonsense.
that's probably good.
But
you're a father. You compete in the Masters. You know, can't be on
that's
TikTok.
a good idea. I got to get my kid to be the social media manager.
Oh, that's a good
Hey,
idea.
Henry, you want to be the social media manager? Yeah, okay. I think that's a yes.
That's a yes.
So, but for real, watch these fights. I'll tell you why. Okay, I'm talking to somebody the other day at the fights, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about that Crawford fight? You know, at the amateur event I was at in Vegas. Hey, what do you think about that?" And they're like, they gave me a whole rundown. Oh, this is what he should do next. This is what happened in there. It gave me a nice little thing, you know, like he was running his own podcast. I was like, oh, damn.
Mm-hmm.
I said, but what do you think about the fight? And he's like, oh, I didn't watch it. Like, are you going to give me an opinion on the fight?
What was the opinion that had
It was just a kind of, you know, a generalized, like, well, I think that maybe the Canelo fight's not the best move, but, you know, this is happening here. And this, I'm like, this is going to show that this is what we do. We take little bits, we read headlines, we hear bits of a podcast. But this is a boxing podcast from boxing fans for boxing fans. And I implore you to watch the fights and don't just take our word for it. I want you to have your ideas in your head and then hear my ideas and have a bit of a conversation here. And feel free to reach out. Tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I'm right. I'd love to hear back from everybody. And I know Dust would too, because we're not just putting this out there in one-way traffic. We want some two-way traffic. You know, let's talk some shit. We're going to start running some lives on here. We're going to do a live YouTube every time starting next week when he gets back from his big adventures in Scotland and working on his accent, you know. So when he comes back, he'll have a perfect Scottish accent and we'll be live on YouTube. And we're also going to come with another throwback episode with some upgrades to our audio-visual extravaganza. So reach out to us, let us know what's up, you know. And, you know, we're always trying to grow, always trying to look, you know, get better. So like, follow, share, all that shit. But watch the fights, man. Watch them all. Don't just watch the highlights.
It's true.
How much time do you got in your life where you can't watch 40 minutes of boxing?
You know, they say boxing is a sweet science, right? And I learned this. I took a philosophy class, right? They said, what's the difference between science and pseudoscience? The difference is science can predict novel events in the future. This like Galileo was like, there's going to be an eclipse on this day. And then when that shit happened, people were like, maybe this guy knows something, right? So that's why betting is a part of boxing, because you see the future and you make your prediction. And if you're right more than you're wrong, there must be some science behind what you're doing. So that's what we're doing. When we talk about fights, we're talking about experiments that got run in the world that tested our hypothesis and saw. And we're not always right, but we're right a lot of the time. And so if you're not watching the fights, you're not picking up the sweet science and learning from your mistakes, learning from your analysis, growing in your analysis of the sport. And that's what the real core of this podcast is about. So you can pay attention to all the human drama and the Real Housewives shit, and we love that. But at the end of the day, the fight is the experiment, and that's where all the real action is and where all the real analysis comes from.
That's heavy.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We get philosophical.
Oh, I forgot to tell you about meeting Stitch Duran.
Oh, yeah. The man.
In Vegas.
The myth.
So I'm down there at the gym, Silver State Boxing, and, you know, it's an amateur event. You don't expect much, you know, but it is Vegas, so you kind of looking around. And, you know, you notice the ring apron is a Crawford Porter, and I'm shadow boxing up there, and I'm having flashbacks. I'm like, I was there. Yeah. It was me. That was my punch, you know. But fucking, you know, I just look over, and there's Stitch. And if you don't know who Stitch is, he's the king of the cut man. You know, he's so famous, he played himself in the Creed movies.
That's right.
And he walks in the door, and I just saw him there, and I'm a good-looking cut man, too. I wear a nice coat.
You got the patches.
You know, I wear an outfit. I'm not just up there in a tank top, you know. And I see the man. I said, hey, you know, I just said hi and shook his hand. And we talked for a good 10 minutes. And he asked where I'm based out of. And, you know, we talked about, you know, the game a little bit and had a nice chat. And then I let him go and do his thing. And he certainly got bombarded by a lot of people because it's a boxing event. Everybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was back there and I was wrapping hands right next to the king of hand wrapping, you know.
So who hired Stitch?
That's what we had to kind of wrap our heads around there. At the end of it was, well, here I am wrapping Juan's hands for his fight, And I look over and he's wrapping hands for some heavyweight. And they seem to be real friendly, laughing and joking, having a good time. And I'm kind of keeping an eye on his hand wraps because, I mean, this is the guy, They charge he does seminars and clinics and sells videos and stuff on how to do it his way. So I'm not cramping his style, and I'm pretty confident in the way I wrap hands anyways. But because I've been taught by my, the best around here, Molly McConnell taught me how to wrap the hands, and I've taken her way and made it my own way, and I really think I do a good job. But, I had him look at my wraps when he was done, and we were all done. I said, what do you think? Because he was real friendly. It wasn't like I was invading his privacy. He was a very open individual. And he took a look and flipped him over. He said, look great. And he asked the fighter, he said, what do you think? And he said, they feel great. He's like, that's all that matters. It's they protect their hands and they feel great.
And you were like, then I dunk it in plaster and broken glass.
But I looked at his wraps too, and they're no different than the ones I've seen around town.
Yeah.
It's a little different here and there. But nothing like, oh my God, I've been doing this wrong or something. And it goes to show that at all levels of the sport, we're all doing the same thing.
Right.
You try to do your best. And the best guy in the world, the best trainer in the world is still going to tell you to throw a jab. It's not like there's some secret recipe that a local coach is being, withheld from. So it was really nice, though, to have a good experience with that and meet him. And it's such a cool thing, a very Vegas kind of thing. And he didn't even stick around. He bounced right out of there. They didn't even watch the guy whose hands he wrapped, leave. But then we were sitting around speculating, like, how much do you think that dude just paid to get his hands wrapped?
Dude, I can't even imagine.
We were thinking like $500.
I guess.
It took him about 20 minutes.
I guess you're right. That's the kind of thing that in my head, I'm like, thousands of dollars. But then when you really think about it, it's like, Stitch probably lives in Vegas. I don't know. Or he's probably in town working the fight that night across town, rapping Ortiz and being his cut, man.
Somebody asked him if he was working. He said, no, he's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. So.
Oh, shit. Okay. So an even bigger reason to be there. Yeah. So $500 to show up and wrap some hands. All right.
Yeah, that was my estimate because local guys will charge you like $50. Right. So if the local nobody,
I'll do it for 25.
Yeah, I bet you would.
Yeah, you might lose, but you might break your hand.
As we saw with Andy Ruiz a couple weeks ago.
I did Andy
You did
Ruiz's.
Andy's hands, didn't you?
Yeah.
You
My
gave him
bad.
the old toilet paper special, didn't you?
Bad. I can do it on myself. It's like tying a tie, but when you do someone else, it's fucking hard.
We use the tape and the gauze.
No, I don't do any of that shit.
Yeah. You know who wraps their own hands?
Who wraps their own hands?
With tape and gauze. Two guys.
No.
Two notable names.
What?
They wrap their own hands before they fight. One guy's retired. Well, he should be retired. He tried to fight again just a couple weeks ago. Manny Pacquiao famously wrapped his own hands.
He wrapped his own hands?
And now Terrence Crawford famously wraps his own hands.
Are you serious? I can't even
serious.
picture trying to wrap your own hands and lay the gauze out and tape.
I'll tell you, that's proof that the man is ambidextrous because...
Damn, that's hella right.
Because I can wrap my own left hand with tape and gauze, but my own right hand gets a little squirrely. When it comes to, and it's weird little things like pinning down the knuckle pad with the back of this thumb while
That's
I'm trying
what I'm
to wrap the
saying.
hand.
Yeah, I can't picture doing that.
Dude, I want to, if I ever get some time with Terrence, I want to talk about wrapping hands because I've noticed that he wraps them way different than anybody I've ever seen. He's got padding, and you watch it. He's got padding all the way across his palm. And now, famously in boxing, you keep the palm open, and you have a little punch bar behind the knuckles here, and the palm is open. But you look at his hand wraps; they're just like they're on the top of the palm. You can see him shadow boxing, and you can watch videos of him wrapping his own hands. I think that my theory is that when you watch him defend himself, he opens his hand all the way open, and he lays his hand on the side of his head. And I think if you have padding and tape on both sides of your hand, you're going to have a big old pad right there, boom, to block punches like this instead of like this.
Interesting.
So you don't put your knuckles on your head, you put your palm on your head. That's how they do it in Muay Thai. They do like this. They put their whole hand on
with
their
your
head.
whole hand all the way over your head. I could kind of see that. I mean, especially if you force the glove open by extending your fingers, you're increasing the surface area, so you're defending more area, and probably you're diffusing more of the punch, I would think, right? Because otherwise the punch is going through the glove because the force doesn't just disappear, right? So it's hitting the side of the glove, and if your hand is closed, it's pushing the force into your hand, so then your knuckles are hitting you.
Yeah.
Right? But if you increase the surface area, it's more diffuse.
Makes perfect sense.
Damn, see? That's what I'm saying. Science. Terrence Crawford probably has a physics degree I don't know about.
If anybody's got any breakdown video of him wrapping his hands, I've seen many clips, but never a full, complete video. There's oftentimes these little hype videos. He's sitting on the ring apron wrapping his own hands. And I know he does it in the locker room because I've seen him doing it in the locker room before fights, and they've talked about it before on the broadcast. So, very interesting. I'll tell you another thing here before we wrap up. I started a personal...
Wrap up.
I started another personal endeavor because we had rewatched Mayweather Castillo 1.
Yep.
And I thought, I've always been a big Mayweather fan my whole boxing life. Of
course.
I've got a very similar set of skills. Mm-hmm. We're pretty much the same guy.
I would say so. Both can't read.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to do something interesting here because I was listening to a totally different podcast, an interview with Jack Black, the comedian, musician. And he said he does a thing where he gets burned out on things. And so he'll just pick a band he likes and listen to their record in chronological order, their whole,
Right. Their
collection.
discography. Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? I'm going to watch
Okay.
the entire Mayweather discography in chronological order. So I'm 3 fights into it now. And it's pretty fucking cool, man. It's pretty fascinating. And lucky me, it's Mayweather, so every single one of them is on YouTube.
Right.
And he's fighting 4-rounders that don't even go the distance, and they're on YouTube. So, but you know what? It's been an interesting experiment so far, and it's, I think it's something I'm going to continue to do when I get done with this with the next fighter I choose, whether it be Marvin Hagler or Sugar Ray, whoever. Or, if I can't watch all Robinson's fights because they don't exist on the internet.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pick somebody after this and keep going. I think it's going to make me a better coach, and it's going to teach me a lot about this sport because, man, it's funny to watch these guys that are legends now and go back and see when they were just, of course he was never just a guy. His dad was a guy. His uncle was a guy.
Right.
He was a bronze medalist.
Sure.
He debuted on TV. Mm-hmm. So, his career is very easy to review in its entirety. But when I complete this goal, which won't take too long, maybe another month and a half or so, we're going to do a little retrospective, and I'll have a little, maybe it will fit it into a regular episode, but a little Mayweather bubble.
I like that.
Maybe we'll coincide it with his fight with Gotti, the third, for the third time.
I like that. I'll put a little Lifetime music under it.
And it all started in 1996.
Yeah.
And then by the time it's over, it's like, and now he's making a fucking jackass of himself fighting these jokers,
It was pretty embarrassing, the last one. I can't believe they're going to run it back. It's like, what's the point? The last one ended in mayhem? Is that what the official...
Yeah. The whole fucking boxing community lost on that one.
Just the fact that his last fight on his box rec literally says Conor McGregor. It's so intense to just look at it, to just see it, and you're like, what the hell?
I was shopping for hats because you see I got my nice new hat. You know why I got blue, right?
Oh, you pulled the tag off that thing finally.
I know.
That's good.
Well, I'm going to keep the sticker, though.
Yeah, that makes you look real cool.
I went to top to bottom where all the kids shop, okay, and I got myself a nice blue hat. You know why it's blue?
I was going to make a political joke, but no politics on the show.
No politics on the show. Though there was okay. Back to boxing. My fighter this weekend, Aaron Thompson, he's got blue shorts.
Okay.
So I got a blue hat.
Is he in the blue corner?
I don't know.
What if y'all get the red corner?
Fuck.
Y'all gonna look like when Crips and Bloods tied their bandanas together and that came out for peace.
Damn. No, of course. Blue looks good wherever you're standing, especially, and you put me in the orange corner, we're still going to win. All right.
Sure. Yeah, that's facts. Facts, 100%. All right. Well, good luck this weekend. I wish I was going to be there ringside, Aaron. I'll be there next time. I think it's an early night, but best of luck. Until then, I'm Dust.
I'm Coach.
And that's boxing.